Hello and welcome to Edible Thoughts Makes. My name is Stephanie and this is my vlog where I share with you works in progress, finished projects, and just things that bring me joy in everyday life. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. If you're watching this in the beginning of the week, happy Monday to you. We had a very busy weekend. The kids had projects going on. My husband's working on a solar system project with the kids where they just painted a bunch of balls and they have these wooden dowels that they will hang their solar system on. And they're just doing this for fun. And I attended a talk where we were discussing a book that I'll tell you about later. I got to meet up with a dear friend who we just connected as if we had been talking forever, and it was the first time we were meeting in person, and that was super fun. And I got a little bit of knitting in, checked some things off my to-do list. We had some errands to run and it was just busy. The weekend always goes by way too fast. But today I wanted to share with you some works in progress, some finished projects, and some books that I am reading. Well, one I just finished, one that I'm currently reading bits and parts of, and then one that I'm about to dig into. And so let's get started. So first up, I wanted to share with you these beautiful socks. So my kids really enjoy wearing the socks that I have been making them. So my goal is to make them each a week's worth of socks. I'm starting with the older one. And she just wears them almost every day. So I am constantly soaking the 3 pairs of socks I made her in a tub, and they dry overnight, so that's good, so that she can wear them the next day. But I just finished these. I made these from the toe up. I did a Fleagle heel, which is new to me, and I really enjoy it. It works actually well with the stripes, I think. And then I just did a 2x2 ribbed cuff, and I made these slightly longer than some of our other ones just because it's getting really cold, so it keeps her nice and warm, and the stripes are just super fun. So I really love these, and she does too. I was only off by about 1.5 rounds as far as the stripes go. When I started the first one, I should have just gone up until like the first color change, so that I knew how much of this green there was, but I didn't do that. So I ended up just knitting all the way to the end, and then it started the little bit of, I think it's on this one, started a little bit of the green again there. So I just kind of went with that and started the second one. So they're just a little tiny bit off from each other, but otherwise they match really well. Another thing that I have been working on are these. They are super excuse me, super fun Christmas ball ornaments. I'm knitting mine out of self-patterning yarn, so then I don't have to do any end weaving in. I'm using the basic pattern by Arne and Carlos. They have an entire book on knitting Christmas balls, and you can use their motifs on various things as well. So I might do some of the stranded ones later, but right now it's just kind of nice to follow their basic recipe for it using self-patterning yarn. And each one has used about 5 grams of sock or fingering weight yarn for me, and they're just so much fun. The loop I just crochet at the end, and I actually don't even cut or break the yarn when I'm done with the ball. I just do a tiny slip knot, like as close to the ball as I can, and then just do my chain from there. And then once I loop through that end, I just kind of weave that through and secure it to it, and then go all the way down to the bottom, just so it kind of has a little more, it's a little more secure. But aren't they so fun? So I'm knitting up a whole bunch of these for Christmas gifts for family, and hopefully for our own tree as well. But I really like them. They're really fun. And then the third item I wanted to show you are these delightful fingerless mittens. They're also made from sock, or self-patterning sock yarn. Oops, there's a little end sticking out there. Just tuck that in. So I'll put them on. I really like how long they are. So the cuff here is nice and long. So if the jacket kind of comes up a little, my wrist isn't freezing. I made the thumb part super long because then sometimes you still need your thumb to do things, but I didn't really want it super exposed. And then this part, the hand is long enough where I can tuck my hands in if I needed to. So they're super fun. They're super cozy. I knit them with, I think, an inch of negative ease because I wanted them to really hug my hands, just like you were wearing socks, but with the toes cut off, I guess, and with spots for the thumb. So I really, really like these. It's getting pretty chilly. This morning with wind chill, it was -1 degree Fahrenheit. It's supposed to warm up a little bit to like 30s and 40s and then go back down. So, do you have a favorite tea or coffee or hot beverage you like when it's cold out? I really like a lot of teas. I don't do a lot of caffeine because then I just don't sleep. It used to be that I could have caffeine before noon and still sleep okay, but recently I've noticed that that doesn't work either, and then I end up not sleeping for days. And that's no fun, because then I'm tired during the day, so then you feel like you want the caffeine, but if you have the caffeine, it just kind of keeps snowballing. So let's show you some works in progress. I'll start with this one. So I made this sock project bag for Denise's Falling Leaves Sock Knit Along. It started in October and runs through the end of November. Denise's Instagram and YouTube is Earth Tones Girl, so you'll find her there, and I think it's the same on Ravelry as well. So these are some cuff down socks I'm knitting, and these are just perfect for autumn. The pattern I'm knitting are the Kia socks by Dawn Henderson of Dawn Landix on Instagram. The yarn I'm using is by Chopin from Serendipitous Wool. And these are the colorways. It was from her first club, the Masala Club, in September. And it was my first club too. So I'm really enjoying this knit. The texture, the bumpy texture is really fun, and it's easy to remember and it's easy to read my stitches. I still like to put in markers for each repeat because then I don't have to think as hard on which section I'm on, and it also helps me make sure my second sock ends up being the same if I know exactly how many repeats I did. I really like these project bags because it helps me keep my projects organized, and then I keep the needle, the pattern, the yarn, and the project all together so they don't get mixed up, and they're much easier to throw in my backpack when I'm on the go, so I can just take it with me. Another one that I'm working on is the Free Your Fade shawl by Andrea Mowry of Drea Renee Knits. So here it is. I've done one fade so far. So it started out as kind of like a denim color and then fade it into a yarn that has lots of colors: blue, purple, teal, light green. I did run out of yarn for my first color, so I started my fade one repeat earlier, and I might run out of color 2 as well, so thankfully I have another skein of this, whereas I didn't have another skein of the first color. So now I'm trying to figure out what my third color will be, because I also want to make sure I have at least 2 skeins just in case I run out. And so my 2 colors that I'm debating between, which I've changed my mind several times, and I'm debating between this gold color or this lime green. So I'm not sure. I think I'll just decide when I get there, but here, I'll hold it up. This or this. I'm kind of leaning towards this because I feel like the colors go better together, whereas the gold is a great pop, but there's no yellow at all in the rest of it, whereas there is some green in that second color faded in, so I feel like it'll fade better. So I think that's where I'm at. I think I'm going to switch to this. This green is sport weight, so I guess I'll be all over the place. I'll have 1 DK, 1 worsted, and 1 sport. But it's a shawl, so the gauge isn't that important, and I think it'll work out just fine. So another work in progress I would like to share with you is my Metropolis sweater by Tanis of Tanis Fiber Arts. So the yarn I chose for this ended up being very variable in thickness. It is not the one that's recommended in the pattern, so if you use the one that's recommended in the pattern, you'll probably be fine. So I had to be very aware of the different sections that I was knitting and choosing a skein that would kind of go with it, since the thickness varied so much. Here it is. So it has this lovely, super squishy turtleneck that's designed to be a little looser, so it'll fit a little more like a cowl. And then it has long sleeves with nice long ribbing, and then the bottom of the torso has a lot of ribbing as well. So I have 1 more sleeve to go, and this is perfect timing for this sweater because it is getting super cold. But yes, it'll fit so nice around here. I don't like a cold neck. You'll see I have some stitch markers here to help me make sure my second sleeve will be the same. I love the color variation in here. It's got like pinks and greens and blues among the cream, so that's super fun. And then you'll see this little progress keeper here. I put that on the front so I remember which side of the sweater is the front. I do that for all my sweaters because sometimes, even if there are short rows on the back, it's kind of hard to see when you're working on it, and so it keeps me oriented on right side, left side and stuff. Much better. And that goes inside my sloth project bag. So I mentioned over the weekend that I went to a book talk. The college my husband and I went to, every year the freshmen get assigned a book over the summer, so they read it by the time school starts, and then there's breakout sessions to discuss the book. More recently, they've expanded the program to include parents of students and alum. So this year, I decided to participate, so I got the book. They mailed it to me. It's titled Hate, Why We Should Resist It with Free Speech, Not Censorship by Nadine Strossen. I did not finish the book before I got to the discussion, but I was still able to participate. The book discusses the First Amendment and the approach to promote free speech and democracy. It talks about equality and It defines a lot of key terms and concepts used in the book. It talks about how politicians may use censorship power, and how hate speech laws are at best ineffective and potentially even counterproductive. Again, I didn't finish, so I will still be reading this book, but there are a lot of things in there that are great to think about, to discuss. One doesn't have to agree with everything in the book, as any book somebody reads, but I do think that it's important to gather information and knowledge so that you can make your own best educated opinion about different topics. So I will continue reading it. I also went to the library and I picked up a few books. My goal for year 2020 as far as knitting goes is to learn how to knit brioche. I have a couple patterns in mind that I want to try, and I picked up this book at the library. Hopefully, because they're photo tutorials, it is a lovely book. It'll make it easier to slow it down to do. I do love video tutorials because they help me see it in action, but sometimes before I've gotten the basics of a technique, it can be hard to follow. So I really enjoy photo tutorials for that. And maybe I can do a few swatches just to get my hands comfortable. Isn't that pretty? So I'd love to learn the rhythm of brioche. It looks like a lot of fun. Another book I picked up is on knitting mittens. It is mitten weather. I'm not sure if I will end up knitting any of the patterns in here, but it's fun to look at and get ideas. Those look super fun. So I love that. I also picked up this book, More Last Minute Knitted Gifts. I have probably checked this book out several times and probably at least every November, October, November for the last several years. I checked this book out in the library. I love the projects that are in it. They're divided up by how long each project takes, which I've never actually timed myself for a project from beginning to end, because most of the time the projects I'm making, I'm not making all in one sitting, so there's enough interruptions that it doesn't really seem convenient to time how long it takes to do it. And then if you have to rip back at any point, like, do you count that as extra time, or are you supposed to subtract that time? Because it's still time you took to make the project, but it kind of made you go backwards. Anyway, so there's some fun things in here. Like, look at these fun baskets. Aren't those cool? Those would be good for holding notions or toys or anything. I think they would be super fun. And they would be a good gift for mailing because you can squash them flat and you don't have to worry about anything poking through the packaging or anything. So those would be super fun, I think. And then the last book that I wanted to share with you, I received in the mail from as a gift, and it was pre-ordered near my birthday earlier in the year, and then it just came out. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Titled Pastry Love, A Baker's Journal of Favorite Recipes by Joanne Chang. I love her cookbooks. I have a couple other ones, and or I guess I have one. Flour, I think, is the other one that I have. And I just love the photography in there. I love the stories that go with the recipes, and I love, and the recipes work out really well too. So, check this out. Hold on, let me see. Where it kind of shows you the technique. So you get an idea of whether you're making something that looks like what it's supposed to be, which is also why I really enjoy cookbooks with photos, because then I know what my end result was supposed to look like. But anyway, it looks super amazing. Oh, look at that. Marshmallow meringue. So good. So I am super excited to read through this cookbook and pick out some fun things for this upcoming holiday season and just for any time, as long as it's not too fussy of a recipe. Super excited about that. So I mentioned over the weekend I got to meet up with a friend, and it was so nice. This friend and we met through Instagram, through the knitting community, and when I found out that she was local to me, I was so excited. And then when I found out that the book talk I was going to was right in her area, that made me even more excited. And so we met up at a coffee shop, and we shared our life stories, we talked about knitting, we talked about all sorts of things, and it was as if I was just talking to someone that I've known for a long time, and it was so, so nice. So I guess I encourage you to reach out to somebody. Maybe it's someone you've never met in person and have only talked to via social media, or maybe it's a friend that you lost touch with in the last 5 years but you've been thinking about lately. Maybe you just haven't given someone special to you a ring in a long time, so maybe call them up or text or video chat or whatever works for you. But I encourage you to just reach out and make those relationships. So with that, cheers to being creative. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for joining me today on Edible That Makes. Thank you. Bye-bye.